I guess we often start off by agreeing on an agenda. Oh, like he says, now I have video and no audio. And we
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I can see you all and I can hear you all. I feel much more connected now.
Awesome. So we usually start the meeting by agreeing on an agenda. I think we should talk about the future of Migrate in future versions of Drupal, even though none of the core committers were able to join us today.
I have some messages from them.
Any other agenda items?
Is there anything to talk about regarding the promotion of resources for upgrading to Drupal 10 that the DA is pushing?
Yeah, that's a great thing to discuss. Anything else?
No, just the usual. Review the patches and get them in.
Feel like we've been doing the review stuff a lot better thanks to the review queue initiative, who at least keeps us on our toes, even if they can't approve everything. But I do feel like stuff gets stuck in RTBC.
Yeah. It's interesting reading all the old issues about how long it takes issues to be committed and you know, all the complaints and everything. And then S. Musgrave is just doing it, you know. You just need so the solution has always been you just have to put the time in and be a bit of a nudger to everybody, because he does. He asks people all over the queues, all over the channels, you know, take a look at this, and they do. You know, they'll take 5 minutes out of their job to look at some old issue and at least say it's relevant or not. Yeah, it is making a difference.
Well, I ran into him at DrupalCon.
Oh, cool.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I yelled at him because at DrupalCon I had to actually work on issues because I couldn't do my usual clearing of the review queue thing that I do at DrupalCon for contributions. I had to actually write code. I blamed him. For the record, I have moved the Migrate meetings on the core calendar. So there will be a 10 a.m. Eastern time meeting next week, and then every 2 weeks, alternating between the 10 a.m. and the 5 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know what UTC it is off the top of my head, but it's actually a UTC meeting that will stay UTC when time zones do their daylight savings time stuff.
It's 1400 and 2100.
Yes, that's what it is. So
for you.
No,
well,
UTC.
No, 1400 and 2100
Oh, sorry.
UTC.
I misunderstood. Sorry. Out with the fairies for a moment. I have to say I'm envious you have a cat you can sit and pet. Our cats don't like that at all. We have very independent ones who look at you. Funny.
Well, this one's a kitten, and yes, he loves attention. But anyway, you said you had communications from the maintainers. Why don't we
right, let's see.
Core maintainers.
Core committers. Core maintainers.
All right, we have that this clashes with the security team meeting, which I didn't know.
That's why we're shifting it by a week.
How'd you get out of the security team meeting?
I said I'm not attending this week because I'm going to go to my great meeting.
All right, I'll quote Catch a bit here. Either drop migrate Drupal UI, and he doesn't say if he's talking about migrate Drupal, or migrate Drupal UI. Either hard drop an 11.x or an 11.x contrib module are both viable, given we're planning to support 10.x for so long. If an 11.x contrib module is doable, this would be easier to explain to people. And I agree with that. Dave is also at the security meeting, so he's not here. And there's something else. There we go. No, Gabor and Lee can't make it. They didn't mention anything, but the general consensus I know is people want it out. So it's just a matter of getting the timing right and how you present it to people.
Right. Well,
it's stuff that we already know.
So my thoughts on it are, so first off, there's two separate issues. So there's migrate the module and the API, and then there's the migrate Drupal with the 6-7 sources that are spread throughout the rest of the modules. I don't believe that we can deprecate, so putting the API aside, which is a separate kind of decision, I don't believe that we can deprecate the D6, D7, migrate Drupal UI, everything in 10 and have a contrib module take it over for 11. I think if the order is to get those, deprecate all of that stuff in 10 and not have it in 11, I think it's going to be a hard drop. And I also think it's probably too early to do a hard drop because with the D7 EOL, technically 11 is going to be out before the D7 EOL. I can pretty much tell you, working in an agency that does, the migrations, quite a bit of them, I fully expect to still be doing the migrations well into 2025. And I would really prefer not to have to migrate everybody to 10.5 and then, or 4 or whatever it's going to be, and then have to then try to attempt an upgrade to 11. So my preference would be to keep the sources in 11, deprecate them in 11, and remove them by 12. Now that said, if the order is they got to be out of 10 and they can't be in 11 at all, then I don't think we can provide a contrib replacement, because the way the system is set up to have all of those sources and everything spread throughout, to have sources and destinations, plugins, and field plugins all in the modules that need them. And as you tried to do or started to do with the field plugins, if we try to put them all in the same module and a contrib module, we don't have a system set up to be able to enable the correct ones based on what modules are installed. And I don't think we can build that in contrib before 11 comes out. And I don't think that that we can really get it workable, especially in contrib, without being able to make changes to core to support it.
I have a comment to make on that. I've written the stuff that checks if modules are enabled, and it only enables the filter plugins on the other one, the process plugins, if they're the modules enabled. So to say that it's not there and it's hard to do, it's not quite right. It just hasn't been reviewed to see how robust it is.
Right.
I didn't find it that difficult to write. I was, painful, but it wasn't terribly difficult.
Well,
but if it's overridden, if all that's overridden by the fact that you think as a user of migration, you'd rather have it in D11, being deprecated in 11, to me, that's the overriding factor,
Well, that is my opinion as someone that works with the system in their regular 9-to-5 job, but I am also a migrate maintainer, so I'm sure I'm biased on some level. So I'm not expecting my opinion there to carry a ton of weight. but I'm of the opinion that if we do try to put it into if we try to deprecate it right now, and then create an equivalent contrib module for migrate Drupal UI, I don't know that there's a technical barrier, but I think with the time constraints and the amount of people that we're working on it and how much time everybody has, I think it will fail. I don't think it will be ready. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm underestimating. Like, I think from a practical standpoint, it's unlikely. And if we deprecate in 11 and remove it from 12, then I don't feel like we need to move it to contrib at all. Like, I feel like by the time 11 is done with being supported and by the time 12 is out, that then we will be reasonably past where any of that stuff will be useful. I think when 11 comes out, which is December of next year, right? Is that's the idea?
It's just 2024, yeah.
Yeah. So 11 will be out before even the official D7 end of life in January 2025.
Yes.
I know that those sources and tools are going to still be useful. Again, obviously, definitely up until January of 2025, and I strongly believe for about a year, maybe a little bit more after that they'll be useful. Much past that, then you're going to start saying, telling people that they kind of missed their window. They've been on a unsupported version for a long time, and they missed their window to use that stuff to make it easy, and then they can pay someone like my agency a lot of money to build out a custom system and do it for them. But I think that'll be minimal then.
All right. So there's 2 parts of that. Does everyone agree that, that we should keep migrate Drupal in D11? Then other opinions on that? Anybody?
Before I give an opinion, Mike, you said that you really didn't want to do migrations to some version of Drupal 10 and then have to upgrade that to Drupal 11. Is the upgrade from last version of Drupal 10 to Drupal 11 really such a big deal?
I mean, it can be. It's a project for us to move anything from, we have sites that we built on 9.5 that we have to have a whole project and budget to move to 10 to deal with CK editor stuff and all of that. It's definitely an extra step that's not, even with a new site where you're planning on it, it's still not perfect. And I don't know exactly what the upgrade from 10 to 11 is going to ultimately entail. But I know there's always, some extra steps.
So if I were planning to do a migration into Drupal 9 and then immediately upgrade to Drupal 10, my Drupal 9 site would have the CK Editor 5 contrib module installed.
Yeah.
And
yes. I do see what you're saying in that if that's your plan, then that makes it easier. And that's probably fine for 11.0. When you start getting to 11.1, when you start getting to going from 10.last to something other than 11.0, maybe even 11.1, by the time you get to 11.2, it's hard to predict how much, you can't build everything you need into the 10 site necessarily.
It's 11 and LTS, or is 10 and LTS?
I haven't heard anyone talk about LTS versions.
No, it's still in discussion. Those issues haven't been fixed.
Okay.
I'm looking for them.
I thought they were just doing .last was so like 9.5 is like an LTS and 10.4 would be.
Is 11 going to have, or the 11.last going to have 12 months, or is it still?
I think
I
it's up
thought-
in the air. One thing I have heard is about supporting more major versions at once. Is that what
Yeah.
what the suggestion was?
The first one is to get the 2-year release cadence. That's RTBC. And there's another one about how long to support, and I can't find it for anything because you're asking, of course, I can't find it. Oh, maybe it's this one. Where do you want me to pop the link? Slack?
Yeah, let's use
chat?
Slack. The Slack is more public.
Okay.
And
I put it
Yeah.
in the chat because I was there, but okay, where's Slack? In the migration channel, here we go. Oops. So there's that one. And there's the one about the cadence. But there hasn't been a recent discussion about the how long to support one.
Hmm.
Oh, and there's another one. Hang on. But yeah, that is one of the concerns about all the maintenance required. PHP Stan has stuff and they have to go fiddle with migrate code, and they're eager to get it out.
Right.
But if there's a strong case to be made that people are still going to be using it, which Mike is making, then that's a strong point to say it stays. Particularly if you can argue that we just rip it out after that, after 11, and you don't have to go through the dance of putting it into contrib.
That's, yeah, I mean, like I said, that's my feeling on it. I feel like it should stay in 11 and be removed from 12 with no contrib replacement. I suspect that I'm ultimately going to be overruled, and that they're going to want to not get it out, deprecate it now in 10 and get it out and not have it in 11. And I really feel like we're not going to be able to get a contrib module that's equivalent and robust and tested and does everything. We might get one that just holds some raw sources and process plugins and field plugins that people can then go use to build out their own migrations, but I don't think it will have a robust, UI system in there. I think what we'll ultimately end up with is a migrate Drupal helper module that works with like generating drush type migration configs and doing a custom migration off of. I don't think we're going to end up with the full migrate UI system, because very few people use that anyway. And I think that's going to be a lot of work to make that work in contrib.
Oh, that's a possibility that I haven't considered. I don't know if anyone else has, but yeah, let's throw out migrate Drupal UI. Good riddance. but keep migrate Drupal.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, from a practical standpoint, if we deprecate migrate Drupal stuff in 10 and remove it from 11, that's the best we're going to end up with in a contrib module. Is something that has those sources, probably has the migration YAMLs pulled out. You can probably make it work with migrate upgrade. It's probably going to be not very discriminatory when it's making those migrations. We're may have some level of making it not generate migrations.
No, that won't fly. Doing it half-baked. That sounds like it's half-baked. Sorry to interrupt, Mike. That sounds half-baked. I don't think that's going to fly. No,
well, it's going to be a tool for developers that do migrations and agencies that do migration without trying to be the one-click detect everything and create the upgrade for yourself. Because, and again, I'm biased. That's what I need as someone who works at an agency that does migrations but always does them custom. So I don't know if my experience is is equivalent to what, you know, the majority of the people need. But I feel like that's going to be the best they do. If they ask us to pull it, not have it in 11, I don't think we'll have an equivalent contrib module done. So I think we'd have to commit to removing it from 11 with no replacement, and then ultimately, you know, we won't commit to a replacement, but we will end up putting the sources, the plugins, and probably the raw migration YAMLs somewhere in contrib so people can continue to build migrations, custom migrations with those as a starting point. But it's not, I mean, don't think of it as, oh, we're going to halfway move it to contrib. It's like, we're going to commit to no contrib replacement, and then the community is going to build a module that holds those files so that we can continue to do custom migrations for as long as we need to.
All right, so that's an option to have this. Well, we'll just call it migrate helper, so we know what that concept means. If that's okay with everybody.
So migrate helper is your proposed name for some contrib version of the core migrate Drupal module? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, yeah. At least it's a name. You can say migrate helper and know what the concept means.
So, and then on top of the source, those sources, I mean, then the other issue is the migrate API, whether that stays in core or not. I think that's going to be ultimately a decision made well above us. And
yeah, that's a different decision, definitely.
It's a different decision.
Yes.
I'm not sure which way it'll lean. I've had some conversations at DrupalCon, and I'm trying to figure out, and I don't know the answer yet, you know, if migrate could be, because there's a potential if the API gets moved to contrib that we can move things faster on it. Like we could develop it faster. We could have much more flexibility in adding to it and adding features and all of that. As long as there really isn't anything in there that we really need it to be in core to do. And I haven't completely figured that out yet, whether there's anything that really requires it in core. I like the symmetry of having the migrate API in core where, you know, JSON API gets data out of Drupal, migrate API brings data into Drupal. I feel like there's a beautiful symmetry there. But ultimately, if it's not needed in the vast majority of cases, I could see the decision going either way, honestly.
There'll be an issue in the core ideas queue to discuss that, but I think that's a later one. I think we need to concentrate on migrate Drupal. That's the more important one to decide the plan on, definitely. Excuse me.
Yeah, because the API itself
I was thinking the other way that we could accomplish this
Go ahead.
is in D10 we could concentrate on just moving all the stuff to migrate Drupal. And then in D11, do a proper deprecation for those people who want it done that way. Right. I'm not advocating, but that would be a sensible way. Use D10 to shift everything into the module itself in preparation. And that would make it simpler. And that would mean that the people who like it, you know, you'll be seen as doing the proper thing, helping people, you know,
right.
Move to Drupal easier because you're keeping it all together.
So that was one of my ideas, or I don't know if I can know that was an idea that I supported, you know, for the last couple of years. You know, the benefit to that is then that we can much more easily create this contrib module at the end of D11 that would work with D12 and beyond. I don't know how much value that's going to have by the time D12 comes out. And D7 has been then at that point EOL for 3 years or whatever it's going to be. I'm not sure by that point there's going to be value in creating a contrib module for all of that stuff. I hope there's not, you know, for lots of reasons, but you know, it's possible that we'll get to that point and we'll realize there is still value. And creating that contrib module will be a lot easier if we can move all the bits of migrate Drupal into a single module in core, because then we can just use that code with limited changes.
So I have not been able to devote much time in the last few months, but once I get back from my vacation in August, I will make a concerted effort to work. And Vicky, you've already done some work, so I'll start by looking at that. And if we can make significant progress before Drupal 10.2 is released, shall we just sort of try to stick to our guns and say we're going to move stuff around in Drupal 10 and remove it in Drupal 11, creating the contrib module?
Well, ultimately, I think we need to get the buy-in of the committers on that before we start it, because we need them to commit those anyway, and there's no point in doing the work if
I can liaison with that one.
Yeah.
In terms of personally, I can find the time to write all the code, to do the move, but I'm stuck on the review part. People need to review them and stuff, and also, how to chunk the work. That's implementation details.
My concern with the move it to a central thing and then move it out to contrib is the effort to do it. I don't think that there's enough people with free time to see it done properly. It's more of a pragmatic concern.
Yep.
Which I think is kind of what I'm hearing hinted at by Mike, and that by the time we get it done, we won't need it anymore if we move it out in the life of Drupal 11.
Well, I mean, we have a firm deadline,
so
more or less, of the end of Drupal 10 to put everything back into migrate Drupal. I mean, it's pretty firm because we have to deprecate it in its original position now, so that the original files can be gone in 11, and so all we've got to do is pull the module out. So I mean, it's pretty much we have to get it done in D10, or or we're not easily making a contrib module at the end of D11 anyway.
So
and
if there's not pragmatic me says if there's not enough effort, and we're trying to do things like reduce the Core Web Vitals performance cost of Drupal and shrinking images, and it comes at a cost. Those same people that could be building the next greatest automatic update system are potentially the same people that would be pulling this all together and then giving it to the community to deprecate in Drupal 11. So I guess pragmatic me says, sorry, Drupal 7 sites, you'll have to go through Drupal 10 to get to Drupal 11. And hopefully you don't take too long to get there, so that you're not going to 10.4 or 10.5, whatever, and then having to go to 11.4, 11.5, because you waited so long. So you asked for an opinion. There's my opinion.
Can I have some clarification, please, Lucas? Are you saying you want to pull out migrate Drupal and migrate Drupal UI in D11? Have it gone?
Yes.
Okay.
Not because I don't want to. I guess I should be clear. Lucas just said, I want to screw all of these Drupal 7. No, not quite.
We got it on. We got it.
Okay, we got a recording. Yeah. So
there'll be a YouTube of this later.
My point is more, I just don't know that we want to because we want to spend more time on the good stuff and well, do we really have that much people that are going to be committed to doing this? It's been through Drupal 8, Drupal 9, Drupal 10. We're talking a good 7-8 years. You could have migrated at any point in there, and you can still migrate. You just might have to go through Drupal 10, which will have security support for 6, 12, 24 months. And then you still have time to upgrade to Drupal 11. Okay, caveats aside, there you go.
So what is the EOL on Drupal 10.last? 20, somewhere in 2026, I assume.
Yeah, it's a while. Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know. I don't know when it is in 20, I don't know. Say it's June of 2026, you know. Then if D7's EOL January 2025, then 18 months after the EOL, I mean, the option to go to 10 and then to 11 is, I mean, I guess technically sort of still there, but then 10.last is also unsupported. So you're going to have to go from your unsupported Drupal to another unsupported Drupal to then try to go through 3 or 4 minor upgrades on 11. I mean, it's fine. Don't get me wrong. Drupal 7 needs to die. But from a practical matter, I don't know if the 18 months after the official end of life is the right time to say we're just pretty much taking all the options. You're just going to have to build a new site from scratch and move all your content over yourself. I don't know that there's much of a cost.
So devil's advocate, what if we present it, Mike, that this is what we do? Here's the implications. And we see then if Acquia or someone is willing to put forward dollars to consolidate this. It has to be done pretty quickly, yes. But I just don't feel like without someone ponying up, we're not going to get more than Mike and Vicky, RTBC, well, maybe a few others, but I mean, we'd all try, but there is so much. You almost need a center of excellence to kind of do this for 168 YAML files.
Okay, it is 40 minutes into the meeting. And I'd like to segue to the D7 end of life announcement and the certified migration partners. And the segue is that, you know, instead of sort of being judgy and saying, well, you shouldn't have waited so long, we should be observing the behavior of the Drupal community and just observing the migration channel in Drupal Slack. It seems that the end of life announcement has had an effect that migration work is picking up, right? Where we're getting a lot of, you know, newbie questions and some nice complicated questions on the Drupal Slack.
We have more than just the maintainers on this call.
Yes.
It's usually just the 3 or 4 of us.
And Mauricio.
And Mauricio, yes, of course.
So yeah, and as part of the segue, let me invite the non-maintainers. Do you have anything to say along the lines of you know, certified migration partners or anything else related to the Drupal 7 end of life?
You went off mute for a minute there, Dan, by the way. So you had something you were going to share.
Oh, no. Yeah, I don't have anything particular to say about D7 at this point. It's been a while since I had to migrate something off of D7. So. But I do have the sense that it's going to be a pretty big crowd, right? I think a lot of people are kind of holdouts, or they just built up a complicated D7 site and they hesitated to get out of it. So with all those time extensions, the deadline getting pushed so far forward, I think there's going to be a big lagging group of people that suddenly need to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think we should, do what we can to accommodate that rather than, sort of, say it's too late now and you're going to have to jump through these extra hoops to go from Drupal 7 to 10 to 12.
I think more importantly, if that's what we're going to do, if we're going to limit, how long the migrate stuff will work to that short of a time frame after, I think we need to make a decision and get it announced, now, in the next couple of months, definitely probably before DrupalCon live or Lil, and just get that information out there. So what I'd love to see, whatever the decision is, I need to know what it is before we can do much of anything. If it is consolidate everything into migrate Drupal, then we need to start that now. If we have to make some kind of a contrib module now so that, we have something available for D11, we need to start thinking about that now. If we're going to keep it in D11 and take it out of 12, then we need to make plans around that and figure out what we're going to do. Again, whether we're going to consolidate anything or anything we need to do in 10 to make it easier to get it out of 11. Whatever the decision is, there's things we could be working on right now, and we're all just kind of sitting in limbo because we don't have a final, decision. So I'd like to just keep this conversation going, and just figure out what we need to do to come to a decision, whether that's a public issue that we talk about, or
what is the final Drupal 10 release?
I assume that would be 2, 3, 4, 10.5 that would come out alongside 11 in December of 2024.
And I'm trying to find it, so I don't know where.
No, 10.2 is coming out December of this year.
So 10.4 would come out December alongside 11.
I think so.
Yeah, the date hasn't been set for 11, but yeah, could be.
Okay, so 11 is June, September, December. Yeah, okay, so 11 will be June or December, depending on how it falls next year. And so the last 10 would be either 10.3 or 10.4, whichever one comes out alongside 11.
So 10.4, let's just be realistic then. Software development doesn't release early. So December.
10.4, December 2024.
Do we know how long after that December date Drupal 10 will have life on it?
Well,
no, not formally.
Well, so Symfony 6.
Oh yeah.
6.4 will go EOL in 2027. So theoretically, if we upgrade, I think theoretically, if we upgrade to Symfony 6.4, that by D10.4, I think theoretically we could have it for another 3 years.
So not Alex, what is his name?
Matt?
No.
Dries Gabler, Laurie?
No, it is actually Alex, but not Potts. Alex.
Oh.
Yeah, the other one.
Oh, the other
Bronstein.
Alex. Yes.
Bronstein, yes.
Bronstein has done this on several occasions with MySQL versions and SQLite versions. I would like to propose that someone kind of go through. Nat's done this a few times and list the date scenarios so that we see the implications. And then the date implications. But it would also be good to see in there that if we're going to do move to contrib, here's the level of effort. We're talking however many, like wild guess, how many man hours, 500 hours, 1,000 hours to move this to contrib, so that it's free to say, yeah, let's move things to contrib, until you see that it's going to be Mike's life for the next year. And then everyone's like, oh, well, maybe it's not worth it. Or at least Mike says maybe it's not worth it. So we have real hard numbers. And then we can also see who can come forward to do this. Is this something that Four Kitchens is going to fund? I doubt it. No, see? So who's going to fund this? Because I'd rather have Vicky working on new, important, good features rather than slogging away at all this stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But on the flip side, unless there's someone besides the 7 of us on this call sees the great disservice to the Drupal community of sunsetting Drupal migrate 9.5 months or something later, that seems also, we're holding all this information hostage. And I don't think anyone really quite realizes that.
Yes, that's a very good point, and very well said as well.
I think maybe we just need a public issue for the,
there is a public issue. I just posted it. It's
which
I
one
just
though?
clicked on it.
It's the one it's the core issue to remove it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Oh yeah, that one.
I do have one little question, technical question here, or implementation detail. If we have this concept of a migrate helper module in Contrib, which has just the plugins and stuff, who does that work to create it?
Well, that's a much smaller lift than trying to get the full click-through.
Yeah, I know. But are you thinking that's something that, like, I have no interest in that, so you've lost somebody.
I don't either, but ultimately I'm going to need it. So
right. So you'd probably wind up doing it just out of need. Okay.
Right.
So that's my point. The people who need it will do the work.
Right.
I don't think that I will need it. Much of my client work is not this anymore.
I hope much of mine is not this soon. I really hope. Yeah, that's what it is something simple that copied all of the sources and the plugins and at least made it so that I could write a custom migration like I always have and have access to those sources. I would build because I'd have to, and it's not that hard. It's manually copying and changing namespaces on 300 files. It's at the end of the day, whatever. It'll take me a few days and be done with it. But it won't be, what everybody else wants out of a contrib migrate Drupal module. It's going to be what I need if I did it. Because.
But if it's what you need, and then someone else takes what you've got and enhances it, and they scratch their itch.
Yes.
No, they can add back the UI if they want.
I've been trying to
not in
summarize.
My module, they can't.
I've been trying to summarize this, and I've only got 2 paths. Path A is to prepare for deprecation in 10, deprecate in 11, and remove in 12. And the other one is just a hard remove in Drupal 11. Am I missing a larger option that we've discussed?
I think that's pretty much it. I think that if we want to deprecate in 10 and remove from 11, I don't think we as the core maintainers can commit to getting a contrib module out before 11 comes out.
Yeah, I get that. And I've got some points about the problems, but I may not have them all. I was just thinking of trying to summarize this on a comment to get further discussion going, to fill in gaps I might have, but I wanted to have the big points.
No, I mean, again, would like to think that we won't need to move it to contrib if we keep it through 11. But I'm still kind of a fan of moving everything into the migrate Drupal module in 10 if we possibly can. If we were going to keep the stuff in 11, I'm still kind of a fan of moving it into 10 to clean up all the rest of the modules.
Just like cleaning up migrate lookup, huh?
Right.
So is that a third option then that I just heard?
Okay.
Which one? What's the third option?
Is there another option where we leave it all where it is and then kill it off at the end of Drupal 11?
Well, yes. that is definitely an option.
B.
Leave it all where it is. Right.
Well, no, at the end of Drupal 11, not the end of Drupal 10.
Right. Leave it all where it is, and at the end of Drupal 11, no contrib support unless
okay. So
the
that would
community
be a
wants to
hard
go
remove
build
in Drupal
something.
12, because
Right.
that's when it would get removed. Okay, so I'll change that to 12. So
Well,
in both instances,
repeat the options because I feel like I missed one.
okay. Option A, prepare for deprecation in Drupal 10, deprecate in Drupal 11, and remove in Drupal 12. Option B is leave it as it is, but hard remove in Drupal 12, which means just to remove it with no replacement. So the ending dates are the same. It comes out at Drupal. It doesn't exist in Drupal 12.
The other option was to remove it from 11 and not do a contrib module.
So you want to have the 11 as well option.
Well, no, that's
What
the first option that you said was prepare for deprecation. I think the assumption is that we consolidate first.
That's what that means.
Yes.
Yeah.
Consolidation
So
is the preparation.
Let me try describing the three options. So the three options, if they really don't want it in 11, is we deprecate it right now in 10, remove it from 11. We're not committing to any contrib replacement for it. So it'll exist in 10 point last for as long as 10 point last exists. And if you want to migrate, you'll have to migrate to 10 and then go from there. The second option is we leave everything how it is. We deprecate it in 11, hard removed from 12 with no contrib replacement, on the assumption that by then we won't need a contrib replacement. And then the other option is in 10, consolidate everything into the migrate Drupal module, and then in 11, deprecate that and move it to contrib. And then in 12, there'll be a contrib module that continues to support it. I think those are the three. I think those are the three options. I don't see a reasonable way that we deprecate in 10, remove in 11, and provide an equivalent contrib module. I suspect the community will rally to get some raw stuff for developers to keep working, but I don't see, definitely not a full-throated migrate Drupal UI replacement.
So one question, Mike, that just occurred to me. Bear with it. Migrate API will still be there, correct?
Well, that's a whole separate discussion.
Well,
that's a separate, yeah.
But let's for the sake of argument assume it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'll assume API is going to stay in 11 either way.
Yeah.
For now.
What if you generate all of your stuff in 10.last, but then go straight to 11.3 or wherever you're at and use the YAMLs and
because the YAMLs call for the D7 node source plugin that doesn't exist.
So copy over those things into the source plugins, the source PHP files, into a contrib module somewhere.
Well, right. That's what I was saying. That's what ultimately the community. But
that pull together a little bit there gives everyone a road forward, a path forward.
Well,
Without
ultimately,
through 10.last at all, they could migrate straight to 11.3.
Right. Well,
had to
which is what I
download.
was saying is that if we deprecate intent and remove an 11, we officially commit to no contrib module replacement, because that's what we have to do. Because if we officially committed to a contrib module replacement, we'd have to have feature parity with migrate Drupal UI, which I don't
Sure.
think we can do. Now, what would happen? So that's the official line. What would ultimately happen is, yes, those sources and plugins would end up somewhere in contrib.
Well, I
We could
don't
have
say the
workarounds
plugins.
for
I don't think I want to
developers.
move the plugins. I would just want to move the Drupal source and the taxonomy source, the node source and the taxonomy source and whatever other.
Those are all plugins. Yes, the source plugins, the process
the
plugins.
source plugins, but just the PHP code, not the YAML plugins.
Right. Yes, not the migration. Well, right. I mean, yeah, that's kind of up in the air. You could maybe include those two or not. I don't know. But yes, the more important thing for me would have been this, because I don't usually use those as a starting point anyway, personally. The more important thing would be the source, the process, the destination.
Yeah,
plugins,
and those are going to like blow up on you and have spectacular errors in Drupal 11.3. And you just then do a git checkout from 10 dot last, and now you've got them again. Or, git checkout, copy them over. Like, I mean, that's the type of stuff that you're going to be stuck with doing.
You're not describing it.
You wouldn't
I don't
have
know
a
if you're
path.
describing it well, but I know what you're saying. I know exactly. I know what you're saying. We're going to come up with a way where an advanced developer that does this all the time will find a way to make it work, which is, yes.
And it's not even all that messy for them. It's kind of like the Drupal 5 migrations I heard rumors of, right?
Right.
You basically
the
could
six
do
sources
that.
mostly worked.
Exactly, they mostly worked.
But here's the thing: is like making that path to hack around and make it work is not that hard for you or me. But a competent Drupal developer that's not too familiar with migrate, and we see those, the ones that are competent developers but new to migrate. We see them all the time in the Slack channel, and they'll figure it out with some help. But they need a little bit of guidance to get started. Those people will be totally lost with the level of the workarounds that we would need there. You and I and Benji, we'd have no problem. We'd make something work as long as the core API was still there. I can build the rest of it out. Okay. I can go get the source plugins and I can do whatever. But I'm used to writing the migrations themselves, the migration plugins from scratch, and I'm used to extending and writing my own sources and all of that. So it's hard for me to imagine what it would be like for your average tier, even your advanced tier Drupal developer that wasn't a core migrate maintainer and been working with it for as long as I have.
Yeah, I feel like I can do it.
I mean,
but I know an awful lot of people that if this is their first experience with migrate, and it probably is, they're going to crash.
Right. They crash anyway. I mean, with what
well,
we have
yeah,
now.
they do. Yeah, I know.
And then we're talking about making, just needing that much more internal knowledge of how it works to get it working. So, all that to say, again, my opinion is we should keep migrate Drupal in 11 for the sake of the community and for my own sanity, so that I don't have to explain how to do whatever the workarounds are that we're going to have to make happen to people in the migration channel for the next 3 years. That's my bias, that's a bias there. Okay. That's why, because if we make it harder for people, even if it's fine for me, I'm going to have to be explaining, we're going to have to be explaining to people or trying to help people for the next few years. So that's my preference.
That's like the only reason
I'd love to see a decision so that I at least know what to prepare for and try to make that as easy as possible.
The only reason documentation ever gets written is that people get sick and tired of answering the same old questions over and over again.
So do we have, from Mike's opinion, that it stays in D11, do we all agree?
I agree.
For the maintainers, do we agree? I should say.
I think it's the path of least resistance. It answers a lot of my concerns with spending Mike, Benji, Vicky's hard to free up time to spend migrating to something that then gets pulled out and then thrown in the dustbin just a few months later with all the other options.
All right.
I just
So
don't know
that's
what
really
it
good.
means to the testing people that are complaining
Right.
about.
Yes.
However, on the flip side, we find a lot of bugs by having migrate, like legit bugs.
Yeah.
So you can't
Well,
throw
I
out
don't
the
know what
baby with the
these-
bathwater.
I'm not sure what these PHP stand issues are that people are having with migrate. I haven't heard
No,
about this.
Don't target that PHP stand. It was just a general comment that it's code to maintain.
Wow.
And then other things
Right.
get fixed in core and migrate has to be touched. And then I have to go back and tell them, oh no, you can't touch that because somebody's changed a test fixture and they didn't know it. But you know, it's just a bit of a headache. A following question I have though then is if we all agree to that it stays in 11, but we don't have agreement on how to get it out and remove it then in 12. We don't know if it's the whole deprecation contrib module dance or a hard remove.
Hard remove.
Right? Hard remove. One vote for hard remove.
Right.
I think
I don't know the answer. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think by the time Drupal 12 comes out, it can just go away. I think by that time, people should just be over it.
Thank you.
I mean, if they've not upgraded by then, they're just not gonna.
Yeah.
I think that if we had agreement or consensus among committers and everybody to keep it all in 11, I think we could defer the decision as to whether to move it to contrib or not. And I think we could at least explore pulling everything out of the modules and moving them into migrate Drupal. And that might help with the maintainability of the rest of core. And then we could have the option of moving it to contrib or not later. But I don't know if that's worth even exploring or not.
No,
I wouldn't be opposed to it if that was what everybody wanted to do. I'm not certain either way.
Benji, what about you? What do you think?
I would like to explore that route, and if I don't make any progress on it by 10.2, then I'm just full of hot air. So 10.2 is my self-imposed deadline to put up or shut up.
That's reasonable to me. Yeah. Good sample of time. Wow.
I mean, it wouldn't have to be done by 10.2. We just have to have enough progress to know that we could get it finished in 10.3.
Right. I progress by 10, significant progress by 10.2.
Yeah.
Not finished.
It wouldn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
But there's still a question about its value in contrib by the time it comes out. Right. That's okay. Just thinking out loud here. Okay.
But I think it would be, conceptually, it's probably a better refactor to have everything in one module, self-contained. Imagine we were just trying to maintain it in general. Like it's probably makes more sense to have it self-contained, and it would probably make it easier for maintainability of the rest of the core. Like there'd be tangible development benefits in 11, I think, to having it self-contained, and then we'd have the option. I don't know that those are worth the effort, but that's where I'm at.
I'm getting the sense of that now too. My next question is, who wants to make a comment to summarize this on the policy issue?
So you were just real-time typing this out to everybody in committer Slack.
No, I'm typing into Emacs. You can hear my clacky keyboard.
I thought you as a VI user, you've just gone
Me?
down in my estimation.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, as a certified Vim wizard, I have quite a bit of respect for people who use Emacs.
Except for that part, yes. Yes.
I think it's probably perfectly reasonable for all of us to comment on that thread with our own thoughts, and whoever gets there first can try to do a summary, but I imagine I'll try to. It won't be this afternoon or this evening, but I'll try to do a summary, but I think it's perfectly reasonable for all of us to kind of chime in. So we.
No, I agree, but it's nice if we have, I just like the summaries, you know, especially as this meeting came up with this, it makes it a lot easier than having to read 3 people's comments about something,
Yeah.
about the gist, you know?
Yeah.
And I was ready to do it, but I think I've lost the 3 points, the 3 options, so.
I'll do it. I'll summarize it. I'm not going to get to it till tomorrow, but.
No, that's fine. Now I have to go back to Emacs. I'm sorry, guys. So I got out of programming for many years to raise my children. Didn't touch computers, you know. Was in the sand pit and with the mucky play and stuff. And when I finally got back into computing, I dug out my old files and stuff, and I didn't need anything that I had saved. And the one thing I wish I had saved that I didn't save was my Emacs key bindings, and I still regret it. Just proving that Emacs is.
Well, we went a little long. I do have to get out of here. But that was a good discussion.
Yes, clarified stuff. And my
To
audio
be
and video
continued.
works.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody in Slackland, and we'll be back here in 3 months.
Okay. And
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
And next
Hi,
Slack
everyone.
meeting a little less than a week from now.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Bye all.
Bye.
Ciao. Okay, where's